This edition of the Ridley Report is brought to you by
nhliberty.org. nhliberty.org.
Dave Ridley reporting in this January 30th from Concord, New Hampshire, as Ron Paul Republicans are out in force for the Republican recount. Average citizens, of course, free to exercise their Second Amendment rights inside New Hampshire government buildings, one of the things that makes New Hampshire special. Now I'm here with Wendy. What's your last name, Wendy?
Newhall.
Wendy Newhall. Are you from New Hampshire or out of state? Or?
No, Brookfield, Massachusetts.
She's up from Massachusetts to help observe for Ron Paul, and she has been a lot of controversy, a lot of problems that people have been talking about. Well, there was something you noticed today that I haven't heard much about. What was that?
Just that we weren't allowed to count the unused ballots. That was one thing that I would have liked to have seen us actually be able to count the unused ballots. But other than that, I think the process is going pretty well.
What exactly constitutes an unused ballot?
Well, in each box that comes from the town, there's all the ballots arrive. There are the Democrat votes, the Republican votes, and then there's a bunch of ballots that are completely uncast and unused that are left over from the town that were never used that day.
And what makes you feel like these need to be counted?
I think it would be a check on the whole system, because if somebody were stealing the ballots and marking them up for a particular candidate and then stuffing them back in another box or something, it would be just a way of verifying that everything was on the up and up.
Any other issues that you've had that you see?
No, I think other than that, the process is going pretty well. Our counts seem to be matching what the state is saying they had for original counts from the town, so,
How worried are you about chain of custody issues, though?
Yeah, I'm a little bit worried about it. I don't have first-hand knowledge of that end of the process, so...
All right. Thanks for coming up, Wendy.
Sure. Thanks for interviewing me.
So here's one of the uncast ballots. I'll be taking Wendy's concern to one of the officials shortly. He's busy right now. Assistant Secretary of State Scanlon. I'll try to interview him about that concern. I am standing here with Assistant Secretary of State. Is it David Scanlon?
Yes.
Okay. Tell me a little bit about this. Why is it that uncast ballots are not counted, are not looked at?
Our statute says that when there's a recount conducted, it is a recount of the ballots cast in the election. So as a general rule, and this has been the case since I've been around, is the uncast ballots are returned by the towns, but they're not a part of the recount.
What would happen if there were a major discrepancy? What would you do?
Discrepancy in
the numbers. Would you go back to the uncast?
Well, what we would do is, we try and if there's a big disparity between what's reported on election night and the recount, we try and explain it, and that's done a couple of ways. Depending on whether if we're short a lot of votes and it's across the board, we may call the town and say, is there a box that you can give to us? And sometimes that's happened. Sometimes at the end of election night, a town actually leaves ballots in the AccuVote counting machine. They forget to open the door up and remove the ballots out, so they might find ballots still in the bin. But typically, we've never had to go back and resort to counting the uncast ballots.
Is there any taxpayer expense involved in this recount?
No. The candidate that requested the recount was required to pay for the recount up front. Same was true with the Democrat recount. They made a partial payment, and when those funds were exhausted, the recount stopped. Candidate was not willing to come up with any additional funds.
Awesome. That's great to hear. There's no taxpayer money involved. All right. Thanks again, Mr. Scanlon.
Yeah, my pleasure.
All right, so that's a quick look at the recount situation. It appears that not much has changed in terms of the numbers people are coming back with, and that Ron Paul supporters are definitely out in force keeping an eye on things, learning a lot about the process, and doing what they can to keep officials honest. This is Dave Ridley, signing off for ridleyreport.com this January 30th from Concord, New Hampshire. New Hampshire's State House, among the least bad governing institutions on earth. But even here, legislators plot theft and destruction. However, they don't do it without opposition. The New Hampshire Liberty Alliance stands in their path and stands ready to train you in the ways of the Citizen Freedom Lobby. Visit nhliberty.org to get involved.